Hello, Gunner James 105. So, the uniform you see over to my right was purchased last summer, and so I'm finally getting around to doing a video on it. I've always wanted to have a World War II Canadian uniform, which is difficult, especially when you want to have something that has rank badges, ribbons, you name it, regiment, all that, patches. So to buy something like that is out of my league. It's way too expensive. And what you see here is just the jacket, but there's a lot more to come here. So this happened out of pure luck, pure timing. Absolutely, had I been 15 minutes later, 10 minutes later, 5 minutes, whatever, before, after, but I happened to be at my local Army surplus store. It's a pretty nice store. It's starting to have, it doesn't really go any older than what we would refer to as our 82 pattern and newer. So a lot of the 64 and other things, it's out of that. That's kind of gone, and it's the same. There's a large store in Calgary, Alberta, that also a surplus store. Same deal. It's hard to find anything old anymore. So getting back to the fact that this here is hanging now in my house, I was in the store. A young fella comes in and he's talking to the owner. It's just the owner and I in the store. We're just kind of shooting the breeze. On that day, I didn't find anything I was going to buy at all. I usually find something, but I had struck out. So I listened while this young fella said, "Yeah, I got something that you might be interested in." And the owner says, "Well, what is it?" He says, "It's my grandpa's World War II uniform." So I'm a little excited to see this thing, but also knowing that the owner is probably going to want to buy it or whatever. And so he goes out, he brings it in. It come in a bag you'd have for a suit. It's an older bag, and lays it on the counter. And so we unzip this thing and we're looking at it. And at first it's like, well, what is RCD, and that sort of thing. And the kid didn't know. And so he was probably, when I say kid, I'm going to say he might have been around 45 years old. And so the owner had asked him, "What do you think you want for this?" And he says, "I have no idea what it's worth." And so I know that the store owner has some World War II uniform, so he's got a jacket and a pants. So just jacket, just pants, and no anything, like just completely bare for $400. So when I'm looking at this and the owner's looking at it and he's saying, "Well, I can't really afford anything right now." Sounded weird to me, but he said then to this fella, "Maybe I would be interested. And maybe this young fella might want to take a look at his uniforms to see what he's selling them for." Which I didn't really need if I'm going to deal on something. So I said, "Well, let's go outside. We'll go out to the parking lot there, and we'll see what we can come up with." And to be fair, again, I asked him, I say, "You must have some idea. There must be some price you have in mind. Give me something. Give me something." And he's got no idea. So I throw out $200. And he says, "Yeah, I was kind of thinking 300." So I said, "Well, how about 250?" And we had a deal. So I went quick to get some cash out of a ATM to get this and pay the fella. Got his name, thankfully, because I needed to know more about it. I needed to know more about his grandfather. I needed to know more history. So I got his name and phone number. Later, I got a hold of him because he had a few more items, and that's what I'm also going to show you in this video. So, pure luck. These things go for, you can check it out, but they go for a hell of a lot more than $250. So I'm going to give you a little history of the Royal Canadian Dragoons. And so I've kind of got some notes. So World War II breaks out in September of 1939, and the Royal Canadian Dragoons then are put in active service, and they send over, I think it's, there's one squadron goes over in 1940, and they're part of the Canadian regiment that was later formed as a motorcycle regiment. And so in early 1941, they're reorganized again. Now they're an armored car regiment. And they went overseas in November 1941. And that was at the same time, that was when the Black Beret was adopted. Pretty much as far as the British and whatever, the Black Beret was your armored corps. And so that's what they went over to Europe with, over to England. And so they were in England and probably training there for a while, like most of the soldiers did. And when you think about Canadian soldiers, there were a lot of them that were there from 39 all the way till they could finally go on D-Day, whereas the Royal Canadian Dragoons, they set off for Sicily. And they went to Sicily November 8th, 1943, and then they were sent to Italy by January 5th. And they didn't have any vehicles for about a month when they got over there, so they fought as infantry, and they were holding the bank, this river bank. I think it's pronounced Neely or whatever, the Neely River, and then it was later that they were resumed as an armored car role, reconnaissance regiment of the 1st Canadian Corps. This here is the patch for the 1st Canadian Corps. And that was a fairly significant corps, this 1st Canadian Corps. So that led to the advance basically up the Italian boot, and they won several battle honors throughout that campaign. They were also involved in the breakthrough of the Hitler Line in May 1944, and then they were part of the Canadian Infantry Division. Later, the Gothic Line, and that was September 12th, 1944, from December 3rd, 44 until mid-January 45, they once again became infantry. And so by the spring of 1945, they were transferred from Italy to Northwest Europe, and they joined the 2nd Canadian Corps, and they formed the 1st Canadian Army. And then it became Armored Car Regiment again. So now they're doing what they were doing from the outset, or what they were intended to do, and they drove everything from the Dingo, Staghound, Humber, Greyhound, and they were sweeping from the Rhine to the North Sea. And this action, this movement of theirs all the way through, they ended up capturing 3,500 prisoners and ended up killing 1,500 of the enemy. And so finally, by the 15th of April, 1945, they liberated the Dutch city of Leeuwarden, I believe that's how you say it, Leeuwarden, and they took 177 prisoners there. That's commemorated every year in the city of Leeuwarden, and so that's pretty much the history of the Royal Canadian Dragoons in World War II. So what I need to do then now is to get this on the table, and I'll show you some other things. I'll get this jacket off of here and explain some things. So hang on here while I get set up.